Hey guys, it's Erica Glenis here for our weekly market update. I know I'm a little bit behind on these things. There was a little bit of a change. I actually joined At Properties Real Estate. You may be familiar with them. Their logo is that red at symbol. Fabulous company. So glad to have made the change. Most of the reason why I did it is honestly, it's much better marketing for my sellers. And I'm pretty sure as we undergo this market shift, I'm still going to be able to get top dollar for those clients. So speaking of market shifts, let's talk about Schererville. You've seen in the news recently, I'm sure, that, interest rates have gone up and buyer pre-approvals are going down and the market's slowing and there's going to be a crash. I've said this all along. I don't think there's going to be a crash. Prices are going to go down, but they're still going to, and even now are still ahead of where they were before. So we're not really looking at a crash. We're just seeing a more normalization from a white hot seller's market to just a regular market for everybody, which I think buyers will certainly appreciate as well. So here's where we are in Schererville. We're kind of looking at two things to see the trends of whether or not, at least in Schererville, this market shift is starting to happen. And honestly, based on these numbers, I'm not sure we're quite there yet in Schererville. So let's take a look. So these are for June. So June 1st to June 30th, closed properties in Schererville of all kinds. Little condos, which there's a lot of, there's a couple mansions in there. 33 total units sold in June for a total volume of $11.4 million in real estate. Average price, $345,915. Average days on market, 10 days on market. So those are two, average price, how long are these things sitting on the market? And then list to sales price, as I always say, is, if you list it for $100,000 and you sell it for $99,000, your list to sales price is 99%. In Schererville, we're still seeing just a touch above 100% of list price. It's 100.15% sales to list price. So, it's right there, but even at 100 exactly is still an indication of a really, really hot market. So in Schererville, one of the interesting things, there's 33 units sold. 17 of those were condos or townhouses. We have a ton of condos in Schererville. Those are still selling like nothing. The only 3 new construction. We know there's not a lot of new construction in Schererville, so those don't matter as much as they would in, St. John or Winfield or something. Comparatively, so these are kind of the numbers we're going to keep track of going forward to see if we're in this big market shift. June, average price $345,000, days on market 10 days. In May, 369,000, average days on market 8. In April, 324,000, average days on market 11. And in March, 352,000, average sales price, average days on market 13. List to sales price in May, 101.67. In April, 100.9. And in March, 100.28. So looking at March, April, May, June, these numbers are all basically about the same. Our average list price goes up and down a little bit, but not in a really big swath. Days on market go up and down a little bit, but still, we're looking at, an average of those of about 10.5, which is nothing. And then sales to list price, again, we're averaging just over 100% sales to list price. So what's been happening, these closings in June went under contract in April and May. Whatever's been happening in the shift aren't yet showing up in the June numbers. So we'll talk about July, August, September as we go along to see if we're going to see this kind of steady downturn or if for some reason Schererville's immune, which I doubt it is. It's a fine town. I don't think anybody's immune to this. So looking at pending listings. So these are the ones where you have a listing, buyer, it hasn't closed yet. They're doing inspections or whatever. Pending listings, 56 pending listings with an average listing price of $342,000. Again, we're not going to know what they close for until they actually close. Average days on market, 11 days. Totally we're with that same path that we've seen March, April, May, June. These pendings presumably in July and August. 6 new construction, 50 existing homes. Again, 23 condos and townhouses, which is a pretty high chunk of real estate in Schererville. These condos and townhouses are kind of have continued to see this churn. They've been listed on and off the market. I think that's going to continue to remain strong, if for no other reason the average list price is around $200,000, which, the average sales price is $345,000. So a chunk of that is made up of these sub 200,000s, which are honestly getting hard to find, have been hard to find rather in St. John, Lowell, Cedar Lake, Dyer, Crown Point, all those areas. So now active listings. So now this is looking forward. These are ones that have listed and not found any buyers yet. There was $1 million home and a couple new constructions that I took out of the numbers because those are outliers. They're always on the market, new construction for a long time. $1 million homes skew the price because it's like 1.6 million compared to our average of 300,000. So active listings in Schererville. 41 active listings in Schererville, which is a higher number than it has been in the past by just a little bit, which is an indication that we are starting to see some more inventory hit the market. The average price on these listings is $382,000, which is, significantly over the averages we've seen in the past 4 months, 5 months. Average days on market, 27 days, which is, again, less than a month, still not a long time, but kind of, double plus what we've seen again in these past 4 months worth of data. So these ones at this higher price, they're staying on the market longer. So the condos, the 200,000, the 250s, they're getting snapped up. These higher price numbers, they're starting to sit on the market. There's 2 new construction, only 10 of those condos and townhouses because again, they're inexpensive and they fly off the market pretty quickly. So these 31 single family homes that are non-new construction, non-$1 million, they're starting to see, lag time in terms of their days on market. The buyers are staying home. We know this. This is nationwide. I've seen this just with my own clients. It's happening here. Buyers are staying home. Their pre-approvals are worth, 40% less than they were, 6 months ago on average, something like that. Our prices skyrocketed so high in our area, and again, across the country, but in our area, that these buyers just lost, hundreds of dollars a month in buying power. The sellers, these, 31 single family homes have been in the market for 27 days and are wondering like, hey man, I thought I could get $382,000 on average for my house. That's not true anymore. And not necessarily because there's anything wrong with the house or there's anything wrong with Schererville or there's anything wrong with the market. It's just that buyers just don't have as much money as they used to because of those interest rate rises. So we're starting to see like an in-between point where, we were just white hot sellers market, 110% above list price selling in 3 days, multiple offers all over the place, to, a super buyer's market where, everything's on the market forever. We are not going necessarily to this buyer's market because our prices haven't really dropped in any way. But what we are seeing is instead of going from crazy seller's market, we're going to, still in Schererville at least, moderately good seller's market. How long that will last, I don't know, because again, based on these active listing numbers, particularly that 27 days on market with that higher list price, we're starting to see us going into, again, not a problem, not a crash, it's not all over. We're just going back into normal times, which again is advantageous for everybody. I've said for, years now in these market update videos with these super ultra high prices that this was going to happen and that it's not really good for sellers. It's awesome for the sellers who don't have to buy anything else, who, are pocketing, $100,000 and $200,000 in equity in their house, but we have now chased the buyers away. And again, it's a function of the market. It's nobody's fault, but that is the reality of it. So like I said, these numbers indicate, maybe we're starting to see that happen in Schererville at least. And when we talk about, Munster, and we'll talk about St. John and Crown Point and stuff like that to see if those, that's just real slow pace is kind of sinking in to, again, where we will get to a more normal market that's honestly beneficial for everybody. So that's our Schererville numbers. If you have any friends in Schererville, if you live in Schererville, if you're somebody's thinking of moving to Schererville, please share this video with them. I have lots of, different videos that I do. You can go back on my YouTube page. Speaking of, please subscribe to that page. I do these again. Now that my big change is over, we're going to start doing these weekly as well. So next week, we're going to be talking about Munster. So we'll see, not a lot of new construction in Munster, close to the Illinois border. Are they starting to see some softening there? As always, if you have any questions, call or text me, 219-765-2062. You can also email me at hsbyerica, that stands for Home Sales by Erica, which is also my website. I'm super easy to ask questions to. No pressure, no strings attached. It's not a good way to do business to pressure people into doing what they don't want to do. So if you just want to talk to somebody that will answer some questions and give you good guidance, I'd be happy to help. Thanks guys, and I will see you next week.